You want to do a sugar wash, but you're not sure to use turbo yeast or Bakers yeast. And what is the thing about tomato paste? Let's go find out. Hey everyone, Distiller Greyling here, one of your favorite home and hobby distillers. Yes, today I'm doing sugar wash. So I thought to myself, I'm back in the game, distilling again, and obviously I need some good fermentation to distill again or to distill alcohol again. And I thought, start easy. Start with a plain sugar wash and then take it from there. But that little bit of curiosity in me is always trying to push and see what type of experiment can we do with a sugar wash. So that's what we're doing today. I'm going to attempt to see what's the difference between using a good old turbo yeast against Bakers yeast. So to rewind a little bit, I made a video long ago about back to basics fermentation. So definitely go check it out. There I explain very in depth of what is fermentation, what actually happens, and we talk about a happy home for a yeast. So I want to somewhat start just there. So if we talk about a happy home for a yeast, is we need a fermentation, and what happens in the fermentation is that sugar gets converted to alcohol and CO2, and the thing that does it is the yeast. Whether using a turbo yeast or a Bakers yeast or your own special yeast, depending on what type of fermentation you have, that is your key your key ingredient. So my take is that we need to make sure that our yeast is happy for the type of fermentation that we have. So I was taught of having 5 steps that to follow to make sure that you have a happy home for the yeast. So first is sugar. Obviously today we're doing sugar wash, so we just got plain white sugar. Obviously if you do grain, you'll have to do starch conversion. If you do molasses, you'll just have to bring the sugar content down a bit. Doing fruit, you're happy with the sugar, so that's actually an easier one. We'll get to that as well. So that's our first one, sugar. Second is pH. So depending on what you do, we will adjust pH according to what type of route you want to go. So let's say if we're using turbo yeast, or if you got your own special brand of yeast, I like to keep everything more to chemically, not really commercial, but more chemically. And then I would use my citric acid to bring the pH down, or citric acid to bring the pH down, or I will then use potassium carbonate to increase the pH again. You want to start your pH always a little bit lower, as it will prevent bacteria from actually entering or starting to breed in your fermentation. So the lower your pH is, the less chance you'll have of bacteria growing. So that's why we tend to pitch on a very lower pH. That's ideal. Potassium carbonate will actually stabilize as well. So sometimes if adding a little bit in it is also good. But that's my 2 chemically ways where I will do my pHs, and this is what I've always used. If you want to go a more house route where you want to use Bakers yeast tomato paste, I will then use a lemon juice to lower your pH. Maybe add a 5 ml, stir it, check what the pH is, and add more lemon juice to bring your pH of your whole fermentation down. If you see that it's now too low, you can use a little bit of bicarbonated soda to increase it a little bit, just to get your pH up again, and will also help to stabilize. All right, so that's number 2, pH. Number 3 is aeration. Aeration is very important. So when your yeast starts to live and eat your sugar, it needs oxygen as well, just for that initial phase. After a certain amount of time, it doesn't want oxygen anymore, but to get that yeast activated, you want that little bit of oxygen. So what I would normally do, especially when I have large fermentations like a 20 liters or more, I would use this paint mixer, put it straight on a drill and just stir. I would also use this to mix and dissolve the sugar, mix in the citric acid or potassium carbonate, or even the nutrients itself. I would use this to mix, and then I would spend at least 2 to 3 minutes just drilling, taking it up and down, making sure I aerate as much as I can. If you don't have something like this, just having a normal spoon stirring it vigorously will help. Or you've got 2 buckets, throwing it back and forth between the 2 buckets a few times will also give you enough oxygen. If you have a smaller container, I don't know, I've got a 5 liter here with me, and you can actually pick it up in the fermentation inside, you can actually just shake it as well. So yes, aeration, very important, especially for that initial step. Number 4 will be nutrients. So when you use the turbo yeast, it already has got the nutrients in it. And that's what also makes a turbo yeast very versatile and very user-friendly, as this is your all-in-one package. You're gonna use your turbo yeast inside your bucket with your sugar, stir, and there you go. You don't even have to do anything else. It's already got all the nutrients that it needs inside. If you're going for a Bakers yeast itself doesn't have the nutrients that it's needed, and that's where the tomato paste comes in. Your tomato paste acts as your nutrient, and we will get to the ratios a little bit later, but yeah, just for now, your tomato paste is your nutrients. If you use a certain type of strain of yeast, depending on what your fermentation is, you will then tend to buy nutrients that you will add in separately. But yes, adding nutrients is also very important. You want to make sure that your yeast is happy. Having something that keeps it neutralized, your nutritionist will help it to grow and also convert that sugar into that needed alcohol that you want. All right, and then lastly is of course your yeast. Now, yeast sometimes can be very fragile and can easily stress. So stressing your yeast will give you off taste or not the yield that you want. So you also want to treat your yeast as best as you can. What I tend to like to do is, before I pitch my yeast into my fermentation, I would tend to hydrate it again. So I'll have a glass holder, fill it with a little bit of water, add the yeast in and let it just hydrate. Almost get it nice and mushy, and then when I see everything is good, then I will add it into the fermentation. It also helps it to de-stress, and you don't have that dry powder that immediately goes into your fermentation. If you've got small fermentations, you're talking about 5 liters to this 20 liters, you can pitch the yeast directly in there. Just make sure that it's already on room temperature, and your temperature of your fermentation is also more or less room temperature. Yet again, you don't want to thermal shock your yeast to stress it out. So if you've got larger fermentations like 100 liter or more, then it's good to hydrate it before and then add it to the fermentation. It just helps it a little bit. And also when you do add your yeast to the water or straight to the fermentation, do it a little bit at a time and stir. You don't want to clump and lump it. The same with the nutrients. One thing as well, I would use normal water to hydrate my yeast. If you do use some of the wash that you have, whether it's now sugar wash or any other type of grain or molasses or fruit, because of the sugar that's in the mash, your yeast will already start to activate, and it will actually start to ferment in your holder that you have, and it will start to increase in volume, and it will actually overflow, and that's what we call a yeast bomb. If I've got a photo of it, I might just put it on here if it's not on there already, but I have done it before also just to experiment to see what does it mean and what does it do. It was a mess, it wasn't very nice, so I would rather just use plain water. That's it. All right, so that's my 5 steps for a happy home for a yeast. It's your sugar, your pH, your nutrients, aeration, and yeast itself. All right, then when you do got everything in your bucket, I also got let's say if you have pitched everything and you're busy fermenting, you also want to keep your fermentation happy. So I've got 3 things that I like to keep my fermentation happy as well. Obviously, if you look at your holder, never fill it till the brim. You want that little bit of space. So I would say normally leave a 10 to 15% space in your bucket. So this is a 25 liter bucket. So if I leave about 10 to 15%, that's anything from 2.5 liters to roughly 4 liters. So what I'll do is I will take it actually down to 20 liters. So that's what I have here on the side. So I've got my 5, 10, 15, 20. So actually I will fill it only up until the 20. So I have still got that little bit of headroom space that allows for if there's maybe foaming or heavy bubbling that it can take in there. and it doesn't push through the bubbler. That's not what we want. All right, second one is temperature. We want to regulate our temperature, you know, keep the yeast happy and keep the fermentation happy. So when you've got small fermentations, they tend to lose heat, even though it's still an exothermic reaction, a reaction that gives off heat. You want to keep the temperature up. So that's where I have these guys, my aquarium heaters. So basic aquarium heater, I had got glass before, but it broke and it was a bit unsafe, so I got these stainless steel ones. These ones are very nice, so I can regulate the temperature. This one goes from 14 degrees Celsius up to 34 degrees Celsius, but I would normally keep it anything here between 28 to 30 degrees. I would just keep it there, and this will regulate and keep my temperature on that specific temperature that I want. Depending on what I want to ferment, I will maybe sometimes increase the temperature or decrease it, but using aquarium heater is very nice. I also have got these electrical glands that I actually use, that I seal my holder as well. Then when I put my aquarium heater inside, I'll put the wire outside and seal it here so that no CO2 can escape or oxygen can come in. All right, and then thirdly is the bubbler. So obviously you don't want to seal it completely, because there is going to be CO2 that's going to be built up and it needs to escape somewhere. So if you're going to seal everything, it's just going to blow up until whatever, the lid pops off or whatever. So you'll need to have a bubbler. So I've got two bubblers. I've got this normal one that we will fill with water there. The CO2 will then push in here and it will come around and it will actually bubble right on this corner, and it will keep as like a non-return valve where oxygen can't pass through, but the CO2 can pass out. That's what we want. I also got a larger bubbler that I used on my 100-liter barrels. Just basically same principle, but it can handle a larger flow of CO2 going out. All right, so yes, bubblers I will keep on top. Also fill it with water. I try to use sterilized water or distilled water so that it's also clean, because you also don't want any bacteria to grow inside your fermentation as it's bubbling. All right, so in a nutshell, that is what I have for getting a happy home for your yeast, and then also keeping your fermentation happy. But okay, let's get to what we have on this table. So I've got Turbo Yeast. This I bought from Distilling, also the same place where I bought my still. Most of my equipment, that was my go-to shop when I was in Gauteng. Here in the Western Cape, I haven't really found a shop yet that I would like, but yes. So this is Distilling's Turbo Yeast. They've got a nice explanation here on the back of exactly how you should proceed with your sugar wash. So let's put it like this. I want to experiment today using the Turbo Yeast as well as Bakers Yeast, but the rest of the stuff I want to keep constant. When I do experiments, I would like to have one changeable variable, and the rest I would have as my contrast, my stable, I forgot the word, but it doesn't matter. My base, keep it there and only have that two variables that change. So for both of them, I'm gonna go with 6 kilograms of sugar. I have actually here 12.5 kilograms of sugar, so obviously I'm gonna end up with 6.25 kilograms of sugar, but that's okay. That 0.25 grams or 2.25 grams, 250 grams, 0.25 kilograms is not going to be as bad, or is going to overshoot my fermentation. If you want more yield and your yeast can handle it, you can add more sugar, but don't go for too much sugar, as it will also stress your yeast. Also, if you want a more smoother sugar wash, I would recommend about 5 kilograms per 20-liter fermentation. That is the sweet spot, but 6 kilograms for a 20-liter fermentation is 100% fine. So for both my Turbo Yeast and Bakers Yeast, I'm going to use 6 kilograms of sugar. All right, so for the Turbo Yeast, you can just look at the back here. So it says keep your pH around 5 for pitching. So we'll definitely test it when we get there. The Bakers Yeast, they don't really say much. Obviously this is for baking and not for fermenting. So I also want to keep it at 5 pH, around there, for my initial pitching the yeast. I have discovered something, that my pH meter is a little bit off. So obviously it's been standing for 2.5 years, dried out. So first, the batteries itself acid ran out, but the pH meter itself is funky. I will show you guys a close-up of this, but it keeps jumping around. Now it's 11.9, then it's 14.8, 12.3, 13.8. So I think definitely my pH probe got damaged, dried up. Didn't really thought about that when I put administration up. I do have got a little bit of water, but yeah, obviously everything dried up. So at the moment I do not got my pH probe that I normally use, but I do got these pH strips. So I'm gonna go old school and I'm gonna use my strips for this fermentation. I will then see how near I am on that one. If you only have this, you can use it. If you got your pH more or less to that 5 and 6, that's 100% fine. I've seen guys that don't even worry about pH and they just pitch it. I like to be more constant and more accurate of my experiments. So I like to keep that 5 pH the same on both sides and literally just see what the different yeast does. But it's okay for now. I will definitely order a new pH probe and next fermentations it will be ready, but that's okay. Aeration, I'm going to aerate same for both of them, 2 to 3 minutes in the buckets, so that's fine. Nutrients, as the turbo yeast already got the nutrients, I'm not going to worry about this one. So then for the Bakers yeast, I will then use this tomato paste. So to give you a rough idea as well about volumes, so this is a 100-gram Distillers turbo yeast package. So in this 100 grams, your yeast is here, your nutrients is here, your pH buffers, everything is actually already in here. So if you want to use anything from 80 to 100 grams for your 20 liters, that is the magic spot. So that's what I then got here. So I've got all these packets, they are 10 grams. So I've got 10 packets of this instant yeast super bake, perfect baking every time. So plain Bakers yeast, 10 grams, I've got 10 packets, so I'm going to end up with 100 grams of Bakers yeast. And then normally you would say anything from 170 to 220 grams of tomato paste for your 20 liter fermentation. So I've got these small ones, there's 70 grams. So I've got 3 of them, so it's 210 grams of tomato paste that I will add to my fermentation. So that will act as the nutrients for the Bakers yeast. And then obviously I will add both yeast into its own holder with water to hydrate it. We'll also then see what's the different colors between the two yeast, and then we will pitch it in our buckets. So going to the buckets, getting the fermentation going, I will heat up a little bit of water to then help dissolve the sugar easier, because it's going to be quite a lot of sugar. So we would normally say if you heat up about 8 liters of water and add your 6 kilograms of sugar and you stir until everything is now diluted, then you will fill up your bucket until that 20 mark. So that will help to dissolve the sugar faster, and then you add your cold water to bring down the temperatures to make it good or more room temperature for your yeast. All right, then yeah, just going to add cold water. After we added the cold water, we will definitely aerate a little bit, 2 to 3 minutes, just to make sure all the oxygen is in there, and then we'll check the pH, because we've got the sugar in, we've got the water in, we've got aeration in, then we'll check the pH. So like I said, we will use the strips. I'll try my best to make it as accurate as I can. After aeration and temperature check, we will just make pH check. We will then make sure the temperature is on par. I want anything below 30 degrees Celsius to be able to pitch my yeast, So if we say let's say we're just going to pitch, take it down to 30 degrees Celsius, and then we're going to pitch the yeast that we have made up before. And then we're going to add the bubblers, add the heaters, and then we're going to put it in the garage. Then if you want to ferment faster, you will tend to have a higher temperature, anything from 28 to 30 degrees. Then you can ferment turbo yeast anything from 3 to 5 days. If you want to ferment a little bit longer, you will tend to turn it off to about 25 degrees Celsius, and then you can go anything from 6-7 days to 10 days, just depending on what the yeast does. I've never done Bakers yeast, so I have no idea how long this is going to take. So it's also going to be interesting to see how it stacks up against the turbo yeast. as the name implies, turbo yeast, fast. So that's what we want to do. You want to have that fermentation quick and ready to go. You don't want to ferment it very long, otherwise it will not have been called turbo yeast. But okay, that's turbo yeast. All right, then after that, we will then put it in a garage, let it ferment, and I will try and say at least the first 3 days, still give you guys the comparison. You know, what's the activity of the bubbler, what is the temperature doing, as well as before I actually pitch my yeast, I also just want to measure the sugar. Sugar is supposed to be the same, but that's also going to be helping us to determine what is our sugar, is our fermentation done or not. But that's only going to be later at the end. We're aiming for that gravity, that sugar gravity of anything 0.99 to 1, then we're good. All right. Oh, a last bit, a little bit of a comparison. So I bought this yeast from Distilling for 60 bucks, 60 Rand for this 100 grams. And let's say I'm roughly maybe going to use 5 to 10 Rands, not even 5 Rand actually, but let's say maximum 10 Rand worth of citric acid and potassium carbonate. So let's say this side has cost me 70 Rand to do my fermentation without the sugar. If I take the cost of my Bakers yeast and the turbo paste, I get to 87 Rand. So in a sense, it's more expensive to use Bakers yeast and tomato paste. But if you do not have a shop and you do not have turbo yeast, this will still be fine to use. I just found it interesting enough that it's actually more expensive than buying these. So that's just a small thing on that. But yeah, I think that's it for now. I think we will go into the garage now, start to get everything ready, heat up the water, and then we'll start to dissolve the sugar. Okay, we are in the garage, here in the fermentation corner. So I've got more or less everything set up, what I think we would need. So the idea is that the two fermentation 20 liter or 25 liter buckets are going to stand up here. I did eventually got a plug that I rerouted all the way to here. Then I can use electricity for the aquarium heaters to make sure that I got my temperature stable. If you don't have a aquarium heater, you can always just put a blanket around your bucket as well. That would also help keeping in the temperature, especially when it's in the winter months. So got my stainless steel bucket here. Not sure if you guys can see it. Has heated up water here. I actually tested it. It's about 55 degrees Celsius, so I'm happy with that. So I'm gonna now split the water, add it evenly into the two buckets, start to add the sugar, and then starting to stir to get it dissolved. If I see not everything gets dissolved, I will add a little bit of cold water or hottish water just to make sure that all the sugar does get dissolved. Then we'll do that action first. After we dissolve the sugar, we'll add the bucket until the 20 liters, aerate. After aeration, we will add the nutrients. So that will be now the tomato paste for the Bakers yeast, and the turbo yeast will have its nutrients inside. I will also add both the yeast, each one into the holders that I have. I've just got normal water in here just to make sure that I hydrate my yeast as well. And then we'll measure the pH using our test strips. Like I said, not ideal, but if you don't have anything else, this still works. I'll definitely see if I can get my pH probe, a new one at least, and then we will see how we're going to pick up the pH and then use a drill for aeration, and then pitch our yeast and then let it bubble as well. I will also add water in my bubblers as well just to make sure. So I think for now, let me split the water and then we'll get to getting the sugar into the buckets. For your fermentation buckets, always make sure that your bottom tap is closed. I normally check if it says off, then I know it's closed, but otherwise I just blow. Nothing came out, so if I open it the other way, there I can hear that's open. So I just make sure it's the other way around. It's closed. Can you believe it? I had it once where just forgot about it, and I started filling, and I had actually a molasses fermentation. And as I'm busy pouring here, next moment all my nice wash is falling there on my foot, so not ideal. So yes, make sure your buckets or any fermentation holder is closed and that your wash doesn't escape and waste away. That's not where it's supposed to go. Alright, I'm thinking while I'm getting the sugar in the buckets and getting it ready, I'm also going to do my yeast as well. Let it hydrate very good. I'm just going to move a little bit of stuff around. Okay, so like I said, this is just plain water, not wash water. Both of them exactly the same, from the same tap. Both are from the same tap. Alright, so I'm just going to put my yeast in here to let it hydrate a little bit. Yes, like I said, it's not necessary if you have a small fermentation, but I just thought, you know, let me show you how it also looks. You guys can also see how it looks when yeast does hydrate. It's just a little bit better for me. Alright, so Distiller's yeast, definitely can smell that nice yeast smell. That's what I want. So just pitching it in and then stirring. Where's my spoon? Got my small spoon as well. Like I said, just to make sure you stir and add, you don't make any lumps, then that's fine. Definitely the color that I'm as anticipated. It's going to be interesting to see how the Bakers Yeast look. Like I said, I've never used Bakers Yeast, so it's going to be quite interesting to see how that one reacts and also how it looks. Alright, stirring well. Just want to give some gap. Okay. That wasn't smart, but that's okay. We'll just get another spoon. Okay. See, it shows that even in me myself, I'm making errors. I'm not so perfect. So if you guys ever get into any problems with your distillation, really don't feel like you have to be perfect. You have to have everything figured out. I think also that's why I'm making this video, to show that you honestly don't have to have everything sorted, to have everything perfect. This is a fun part of distillation. We'll take it as it is, we'll go as we go, and hopefully by the end of the day we'll get some good products that we'll enjoy. Alright, now for the Bakers Yeast. I'm trying to think if my mom ever had yeast. Maybe I was too little to really understand what she's doing. Oh, it definitely has got that more yeast consistency than I've seen some of the other yeast, like real yeast. As you can also see, it tends to just drift on the top. So that's typically why we sometimes say that we need to hydrate yeast. It's the fact that it's just lying on top and not really doing anything, and it needs to start to dissolve inside your water. So I'm gonna add all these small packets into here so we can start to hydrate our yeast. I can definitely see color is starting to change on this. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a stir just to see that I get the yeast a little bit moving and trying to see if I can get everything wet. Give you guys an idea, so the Bakers Yeast is a little bit darker, where our Turbo Yeast is a little bit lighter, as we've got nutrient and pH buffer already in. but we're just gonna let it stand there to hydrate. And I'm gonna go to the sugar next. Like I said, I'm gonna add two packets, 2.5 kgs each, so it's 5 kilograms on each holder, each bucket. And then I've got an extra packet that I will then just more or less split halfway to have that 1.25 kgs that I will then split between the two. So we're sitting with 2.5 kg packet. So I need to slowly empty until I got 1.25 left. So just check, yes, 2,500 and about 15. So maybe the package is about 15 grams, but it's not too bad. So I'm gonna slowly pour out and just keep on measuring every now and again until I get that 2,000. 1,800 grams, 1.6. All right. So let me now catch 22, but it's okay. Oh, we want 125. So 1.5 is fine. No, 1.5 is still fine. We need 125. 1,273. Yo, that was close. Almost. But it's okay. So we can scoop out 1,257. Yes. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So like I said, half of the package went in here, other half will go in here. So I'm happy now, still nice and hot. Like I said, I will start to get the drill in to get them dissolved, both of them, and then also aerate as I'm going. And then I will aim to fill up to 20 liters here. I also got my mark there on 20 liters there. I might fill up a little bit less. I'll just see how I feel, as I'm thinking of just using a little bit of water to rinse out the two yeast as well. That's also a little bit of a problem that you get sometimes when you do hydrate your yeast, and it will tend to get stuck on the side and you need to get it out. So you are going to use a little bit of water, rinse it out, and then put it back in. So you might increase your volume. So maybe when you do fill it up, don't fill it up all the way to where your mark is, maybe just a little bit less. Add your yeast, and then you can see how much is still left, and maybe just top up if you want to have it on that perfect 20 liters. But we will see. But for now, let me get this mixed, dissolved, and then when I'm ready and I know it's dissolved, I will already fill up the buckets until just below the 20 mark, and then we'll get ready for the tomato paste to add into our normal Bakers Yeast bucket. And then we will measure the pH to also see what the pH does, get our strips, see how much it is, and get the pH ready, add the tomato paste, add our yeast, get it closed up, get the bubblers on, and then we're good to go. So got them just slightly below the 20 liters mark on both of them. Have stirred them vigorously for quite a while. I can actually still hear the bubbles slowly rising, and I can actually see the air bubbles inside, so that I know it's very good aeration, and that's what we want to. It's almost when I'm done with the drill and I lift it out, I can hear that almost sounds like a soda pop. Then I know, yes, it's good and properly aerated. So now it's for the pH test. Like I said, this is not ideal, but if it's the only thing that you have, then you can definitely use it. So it's been a while since I've used pH strips, so bear with me if I can still get my bearings right. Just going to take out a few of them to make sure I've got it right, and then we'll see. So as the instructions on here say, that you'll dip it in for 2 seconds and then you take it out, and then you will compare it against what we have. So like I said, we are aiming for this 5 pH. So I want to have my test strip fairly resembles the number 5. So let's give it a go and see where we get, and how much is the pH, and are we actually going to be accurate or not. Alright, well, it's actually very close there. I'm actually see the 6, it's a little bit off, so actually I'm fairly happy with the pH. So sorry. So I'm actually very happy with that pH. I'm going to test the other one as well, but actually looks like the pH is on par, so I'm actually very happy about that. Okay, check this one. Also basically a 5 pH, and that's what we want. So actually I'm very happy. I'm actually not even gonna adjust the pH. So it also shows that the turbo yeast itself is already got the pH buffers inside. It will keep the pH there, so it's very good, it's very helpful. For your Bakers yeast, I might squeeze in a little bit of lemon just to make sure that the pH does start low enough, and because whatever I've got, the Bakers yeast and the tomato paste doesn't really have got that buffer, so I might just add a little bit of lemon juice, 25 mils at the most, literally just going to be a squeeze just to know that it's in there. So next step then will be to get the nutrients in, to get this tomato paste open, and then we'll add it in here. And then for the yeast itself, we can also, for interest's sake, just measure the sugar. Let's do that. Let's measure the sugar. I'm trying to remember now my last run what was the sugar, and I can't honestly remember. So this is basically just a 3-scale, triple scale beer and wine hydrometer or hydrometer. So on it, it will have bricks, it will have your potential alcohol percentage, and then it will have your gravity, your sugar gravity or your percent gravity. Alright, so let me dump it in and see what we get. It's bubbling nicely. So we're sitting about, what do we have there? So we got 30 bricks, and we got 1.1330 to 32. So 1.132 gravity, 30 bricks, and then according to this potential alcohol percentage, it says we'll get around 16, but I'm not always very trustworthy on this alcohol potential alcohol, but it's fine, we will keep it there. So I'm quite happy with the mash we got here, the sugar wash, so very good. Just gonna dry this one out a little bit. The sugar, I can feel definitely this sugar water is sticky. Everything is really getting sticky as you use it, but that's good. That's what you want. You want that sugar. This is your best yield, high yield sugar to alcohol ratio. You sometimes can get a little bit more with other products, but sugar wash is getting that high yield out. All right, I'm gonna get that tomato paste open and get it into this bucket here, because this will be my tomato paste wash with the Bakers yeast. And then we will see if we can start to get that yeast also pitch inside. Stir it a little bit, see if we can top up until 20, then we know it's good. Get the bubblers on, get the aquarium heaters also ready, and then basically we are good to go. Okay, plain sugar paste, tomato paste. See, it's a nice thick consistency. This is purely for nutrients. So I'll get these into the bucket, and like I said, I'll definitely give the bucket another stir just to make sure that all of this gets mixed in well as well. Alright, we can definitely see the color difference between the two. Sugar wash color, light yellowish, and then a nice reddish color on the tomato paste wash. Definitely looking good. Alright, I am gonna first get my bubblers ready, as well as the aquarium heaters, before I pitch my yeast. Just so you know that everything is ready, so by the time I pitch the yeast, I can just close the bucket and then be ready for fermentation. Right, got my aquarium heaters set up, plugged in, or plug on and ready. Got the bubblers also sorted, bubblers also ready. So now will be for getting the yeast in. So first I'm gonna try this yeast of the Bakers yeast. So it definitely started to hydrate and got a little bit of gooey. Typically the consistency that you want if you're doing bakery, but this is good. So I'm just gonna slowly put it in, get a little bit more water in here again, shake it up, and then see if we can get it clean. That looks good. Alright, unfortunately technology got the best of me today. So I'm using my phone to record, as I do not have got a nice camera to record, so it's might something I need to invest in. My battery went flat and I didn't know, so it stopped recording just as I was done pitching the yeast for the bakers. So it's very unfortunate. It unfortunately happened, and there's nothing I can do now to bring it back. But the consistency for the turbo yeast was very much smoother and almost like more milky, smoothie, silky. I did add it. You will see also in the video that the color difference between the two, having the tomato wash in, the tomato paste in, it's more reddish, but this one is almost that clear to yellow. So I am just going to seal them now and make sure that the lids are on properly and properly sealed, to make sure that everything is good. Bubblers are there. You can see if I press down, it's definitely going to work, so I'm happy with that. So the thing now is that, there we go. Right. The thing now is that I will try and, for the next 3 days at least, try and get updates as well. Put it on this video as well, so that you guys can also see how the activity goes. Then I'm gonna let it ferment, keep record and track of how it goes. After the end, I will tell you, alright, this one this amount of days, this one took this amount of days. Also added onto the video as well as, also added onto the video, and also have the results afterwards of what is the Brix or sugar, the gravity or the SG on both of these as well. So this is now where today's work's gonna stop. So I'm just gonna clean up now and leave these two buckets right here and let them ferment. Hopefully by the time I'm actually done cleaning, there would be some activity and I can show you guys as well. Probably here by later tonight there will be a little bit of activity. I've got both the heaters on at about 28 to 30 degrees Celsius, just to make sure the wash is nice and hot. I wanted to speed up actually. I want to see how fast that turbo yeast can actually do its work, just to have an idea as well. So guys, yes, basic sugar wash, Bakers yeast versus turbo yeast. Let's get them, or let's leave them to ferment, and then I'll get updates in as we go. Everyone, so this is day one. We pitched the yeast yesterday, so this is day one of fermentation, the afternoon, just got off work, and definitely some nice activity, especially on this guy here. This is a turbo yeast. You can really see it's bubbling away. Tomato paste wash, not as much, but it is still bubbling, so that's good to know. Let me show you a closer look. All right, as you guys can see, turbo yeast is really bubbling away. I like to see that activity. Shows that it's really doing very well. As I said, the tomato paste wash is bubbling. It's not bad, and not comparison with your turbo yeast one, but it's there. It's bubbling, showing me that there is fermentation happening. There is that sugars or yeast eating the sugars, converting it to alcohol and CO2. So that's what we want to see. So that is good. As I said, this is the first day. We will document as the rest of the days goes on, and I will keep you guys informed, updated, and enjoy. Alright guys, so this is the second morning. So yesterday, getting home from work, I saw there wasn't a lot of activities. So I checked the lids again, and it might have been that I didn't close the lids too properly. But last night it really kicked in a little bit later, and this morning it's really active. So I just want to go show you guys. Alright, turbo yeast is definitely picking up, increasing quite nicely. I'm happy at the speed that it's bubbling. I can definitely feel it's nice and hot with the thermometer and also the aquarium heater. Sugar tomato paste is still slowly bubbling, but it's okay. I'm quite happy with it. So yes, second morning, still very active, very alive. Enjoy it. Hey everyone, so day two afternoon, just off to work. Definitely turbo yeast is still pumping very nicely, very happy. Tomato paste or Bakers yeast is just slow. It's not a bad fermentation. Remember, turbo yeast does what it's supposed to do. It's something that you put in, you crank the heat up, and you get that fermentation going quickly, 3 to 5 days max, and then it's done. Normal fermentation takes a little bit longer, 7 to 10 days, depending on your temperature and what you had. So I'm fine with letting this one ferment as it does. I will wait until it stops to bubble, give it another day, and then measure the specific gravity. Here we will do the same. We will wait for it until it stops to bubble, leave it another day, and then measure the specific gravity. So, but I'm still happy seeing that it's performing like it's performing. So it's very well. Also, just a food for thought. If you have got fermentations going, try to keep it in some place where it's ventilated. You guys will see that I have cracked open the window just slightly here in the garage, just to make sure that there is some ventilation going through, as not just the buildup of CO2, but it's also, it will start to smell, you know, and having the door straight to the kitchen, we don't want the smell to carry over to the rest of the house. So keeping it ventilated. I will post a video maybe some time later of what we do or how we handle smells, and then we can see how we can do things differently to handle that smells. So right, this is the second day afternoon, still going very well. See you guys later. All right, we are at the third morning. Turbo Yeast is still going good, not too bad. There we go, just getting the sun out the way. Turbo Yeast is still doing very well. Tomato paste is also still bubbling, still there, still going, still very good. Just keeping an eye still on it, still activating very well, very responsive. And we'll get there and let you guys know how it ends. Alright, this is the third night. So Turbo Yeast is still bubbling, slowed down a little bit, but definitely still bubbling, still going good. Tomato paste is very slow. It does bubble, but every now and again. So it's interesting to see that it has semi-stopped, not completely. So very interesting. Can't think that it's done. Don't know if the fermentation stopped, but yes, very interesting. But yes, the night of the third day. Morning guys, this is the fourth morning or day 4. So Turbo Yeast is still active, slowed down a little bit, but it's definitely still active. The Bakers Yeast one actually looked like it's definitely more stagnant. I can also see, especially there, that it's not pushing out anymore. It actually started to slowly go back up. So yes, I don't want to call the Bakers Yeast fermentation done yet. I want to leave it maybe for 2 more days before I start to measure the specific gravity in this one. But Turbo Yeast is still going very well. I'm very happy with that one. So yes, the morning of day 4. Hey everyone. Alright, so this is the 5th morning. Can see that Turbo Yeast has definitely slowed down a little bit, but it's still bubbling, still active. Here on the tomato paste sugar wash Bakers Yeast, it's just staying stagnant, not really doing much. But it's okay, I'm still happy. It's still fermenting, still going. I'll check in with you guys again in a few days when it has subsided and when we're ready for straightening. Hey everyone, so it's day 7. So interesting enough, the tomato paste sugar wash completely became stagnant. Nothing happened. Even the bubble itself started going up slightly. And what I then did this morning, well this afternoon, is I gave each of the 2 buckets a good shake, and actually tomato paste is starting to bubble again. So it's quite interesting, very happy for that. Turbo Yeast is still bubbling. The temperature is a bit lower, so that's also why it's been bubbling ever since. So I'm also fine with that. The idea and the plan is actually still to leave it this whole week, as I've got a working week again, Monday to Friday. So I'll check how it looks in the evenings, but most probably either Friday night or Saturday morning I will attempt to actually strain these 2 out. I'll just have a look and see if they might still be bubbling. I might leave them longer. I'm not in a rush, so it's not too critical. Just leaving them for now. As you guys can see, it's still bubbling nicely. But yes, this is now basically 7 days in, a week in. Temperatures are a bit lower, here in the 25 degrees Celsius range, but I'm still very happy about it. Cheers guys. Alright guys, so this is the 8th day, night of the 8th day. So I see that both of them has stopped to bubble at all. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm actually going to unplug the heaters to let it cool down, as it will also then stop the fermentation completely as the temperatures cool down. And then I want to leave it another 2 days, and then I want to measure the alcohol. So it's then Monday, so maybe about Wednesday night, Thursday at the latest, I will then test the sugar of the specific gravities on both of them, just to see where they finished up. That will also make me decide if I'm going to leave it or not. Plan is then, if the SG is where I want it to be, near that 0.999 or 1, I will then strain it out this weekend, and then that will be the video for now. And then I will also have the results to see exactly how did the Turbo Yeast compare against the tomato paste wash with the Bakers Yeast. Thank you guys. Hey everyone. Alright, so we're at day 10, or the night of the 10th day of the fermentation. So 2 days ago I did unplug the aquarium heaters, so they've been standing as normal. I can see the temperatures around 22 degrees Celsius, the same 22 degrees Celsius. That's the normal ambient temperatures we currently have got. So the turbo yeast tend to bubble every now and again a little bit more slightly, where I can see on the tomato paste one it actually started going backwards, so it means that definitely there's no more real activity inside. So the idea then tonight is just to measure the sugar contents of both, the sugar specific gravity on both, just to have an idea of where they stand. I am going to let them stand like this until the weekend, because then I have time to strain it out. So there's nothing much that's going to happen, but just for interest sake, I want to measure the sugar content tonight, the specific gravity, just check where the fermentations are. Alright, so this is the tomato paste one. Definitely the color has changed a little bit, it was much more red. So it does show that the yeast has actually started to eat the nutrients, so that's good. Then on the turbo yeast, yeah, definitely much lighter. You can definitely see the color difference between the two. Very interesting, but yes. Let me get the lids off and then let's get the specific gravity measurements. So I'm using my what do you call it? What is the name? Triple scale beer and wine hydrometer. Just that I'm actually just looking at the specific gravity, not really, we can check the bricks as well, but not too worried about that. Alright, so let's see. Specific gravity, it's bounding just down on the blue. So where is it? 0. It's still got about 1.3. 1.33 about on the specific gravity, and then bricks count is more or less still at 9. So it definitely shows that there's still some sugar in the tomato paste one. Can be a lot of factors, can be from pH, the temperature, to the yeast itself, can be a lot of things. Alright, so on this side, definitely dropped in a lot more. See, that's now more or less where I wanted it. So it's actually just below the red, about there. So it gives about 1.01, and that's more or less what I wanted. I want it to be in that red band. That's where I wanted. So it's just outside the red band. So on sugar content, it's more or less maybe 1 or 2 bricks. So I'm quite happy. So turbo yeast, I'm actually very happy. It really performed very well. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how both of these two perform. I will strain it out. I will still leave it as it is. Strain it out on Saturday. So today is Wednesday. So Saturday I will strain it out and then just do sugar measurements again, specific gravity, and then just do a little bit of calculations and see if we can maybe get the approximate alcohol. But it's going to be interesting to see when we do when we do distill both of these, what's our yield going to be at the end of the day. So that's it for this part of the video. Thank you for watching. Cheers. Hey everyone. Alright, so we're back in the garage. So this is roughly about 2 weeks. I started fermenting on the Sunday, and this is the Saturday of the second week. Like I said, I'm still working, so I'm trying to see how I can manage everything. So that's why I'm only getting to the Saturday that I can actually strain it out. So the plan today is to just quickly measure the specific gravity, the sugar content again, and then slowly start to get these two guys straining. Plan will be to just strain out a little bit, just to see if how far the yeast is here at the bottom. So I'm just going to strain a little bit in my measuring jug, but if I see it's clear, then I'll immediately strain to the bucket, and also got my glass holder as well. I'm not 100% sure, but I can remember this is about a 13 liter glass carboy. but I will strain in there and also into the bucket as well, because technically I'm sitting with 20 liters, so 13 liters is not going to be enough. And if I can remember, this is about a 15 liter bucket, so between the two of them I will strain out the first one until I'm comfortable that I don't want to get all this bottom sediment, the dead yeast cells and nutrients, whatever's still left there. Don't want to strain that out, get it in, rinse the bucket, pour it back in, do the same with the Bakers Yeast or tomato paste wash, and then I will just let them stand again for another week, as I will only distill the following weekend, next weekend. Then we will just do stripping runs of everything, and then we will also then compare the taste. But yes, let's focus on today. Today is about straining these two guys out, and let me open them up, get the sugar content measured, and then we'll get cracking. I've actually seen that this one still bubbles a little bit, very interesting. So it's going to be quite interesting to see where this one has ended up eventually. Alright guys, so I got them open, still very light in color, still a little bit reddish. I will try and get a close up a bit later. I will also see when you guys, we will also see when we pour out how it eventually looks. Just got my cloth. Alright, so let's see. I'm gonna put this one back in. It's bubbling a little bit. See, there's a bit of CO2 around it. I'm gonna shake it off a little bit. So it's still roughly just underneath that red. So the red is at 1.0, so it's just a little bit below it, so it's about 1.01, 1.02. so technically there's still a little bit of sugar in here, but like I said, I'm not too worried. It was just experiment to see between the Turbo Yeast and the Bakers Yeast, and also just to do a plain sugar wash, so whoever wants to do a sugar wash can also just see what's the basic steps for doing a sugar wash. So if I look at the sugar, it's about 1.5 bricks according to my hydrometer. So in here, see, I can't remember, we had it this Wednesday. Yeah, I'll just go back on the video just to check what it was on Wednesday, but I can't remember 100%, but it's okay. I still got 1.03, maybe it was 1.03. Let's see, bricks was about 7.5 bricks of sugar content here. So I'll definitely check on Wednesday's video where it was, and actually did it ferment for this last 2-3 days as well, but not too bad. I'm happy. I will also then use the starting sugar. Starting sugar, I can remember, was quite high, and the sugar content now, the 2 bricks here and 7.5 bricks here, I will also work out what's my potential alcohol that these two are. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to measure your alcohol concentration with an alcohol meter when you have a fermentation, due to solids, due to still sugar being in here, due to yeast and nutrients. So it's not always very accurate to take an alcohol meter directly in here and measure it. That's why we always say potential alcohol, and I think even on here it will tell you approximate potential alcohol by volume. So even that tells you that it's not 100%, it's just approximately. But I'll do a bit of calculations, and I will definitely put it up so that we can see and just find out, you know, what was the yield. So just by looking at the sugar that's left, obviously here's only 1.5 bricks left, so it means that less sugar left here, so it means that more sugar was converted, so obviously a greater yield here. Here's a lower yield, and like I said, it can be due to a lot of things. It can be from my temperature wasn't right, or I stressed the yeast, or the pH wasn't 100%. Remember, I only had my pH strips and not my pH probe. So, and it can also be that's the Bakers yeast that I got. You know, maybe it's not that high sugar tolerance, or maybe the sugar was too much and it also stressed the yeast. So there's a lot of things that can stress your yeast. So you need to know that when you get your recipe and you work with it a few times and you got that sweet spot to try and always keep it there. I used to have a red wine yeast and a white wine yeast that I used for my molasses fermentation that I used to make a rum, depending on if I want a dark rum or a light rum. And it was also interesting to see how you would differ the pHs and temperatures there as well. So Yeast is a very finicky thing, but I'm very happy with the turbo yeast. Like I said, it's made and balanced out perfectly to do what it's supposed to do. I have read a little bit this week again. I use now 6.25 kgs of sugar. Actually, if you take it from 5 kgs to about 5.5 kgs, that's actually a better spot. Sugar content can also be too high, or it's just that your yeast will eventually not eat all the sugar that's left, and you will have excess sugar. So to save a bit of cost, you can rather say go to 5 kgs or 5.5 kgs. Like I said, there is a little bit of sugar still left, but it's okay. It's still going to be interesting to strain them out and get them distilled to see also on taste wise how do we end up. I'm still thinking when I taste tomato here, but it might be that you're not going to taste tomato. I don't know, but okay. Plan now is I'm just going to move it slightly forward just to get the tap off the edge. I don't want to shake it too much as it has been resting as well. That's also the thing, is when you want everything to settle down to the bottom, and you don't necessarily want to stir now and then you have to wait 2 or 3 days again for everything to settle out. So everything is fairly settled out. I mean, it's been standing almost a week now. Oh, it's very heavy. Okay, just gonna get my mat a little bit sturdier and then I'll move it forward. Alright, that's a bit better. Okay, on the temperature here, it went down to about 19. It's between the 18 and 20, so about 19. And the ambient temperature has differed a little bit the past few days, but this morning I checked on the thermostat of my still. It was about 20 degrees Celsius. So I'm fairly happy with how the temperature has regulated itself. So like I said, my plan now is just to strain out a little bit, because I just want to see how much yeast is here. Is it lying on the yeast, or is the yeast maybe just below this? Also, I would open my tap very slowly, not to almost form a suction or a vortex so that it might suck up anything. So I just want to open it slowly and then just see if it's going to be clearish like the color of the fermentation, or is it going to be a lot of sediment. Alright, so it looks kind of clear. It almost looks like a very diluted beer color. But yes, so now I'm quite happy. It looks quite clean. I definitely just gonna strain it out immediately. So now I'm happy. No sediments. So now I'm quite happy with this. So I am gonna pour. Now let's pour it straight into the glass carboy. I know that I can easily pour out this one, then the bucket, but I was not going to fill it all the way to the brim. I will just fill it until I can know it's manageable. And now maybe going to have a little bit of issue here, so let me just move it slightly forward. Alright, so I got it more or less here, but I'm thinking of maybe lifting it a little bit. That will be slightly better. I'll just keep an eye on it that it doesn't fall over. I'm also not too worried about measuring out what I have. I will measure it out when I distill it. So I'm just gonna strain out today. Normally I would actually measure my straining as well and everything, but as it's just a sugar wash and it's just for experimenting purposes, I'm not really too worried about it. So yet again, just opening slowly, and I just want to check that it doesn't go everywhere. So I will see now if I can make a better plan. But yes, I'm just going to strain out as much as I can, maybe to about there, and then I'll move over to the bucket and then strain the rest in the bucket. Alright, got it going. So it's also interesting to see that there's a little bit of foaming. That's typically still CO2 that might be trapped. That's also now getting loose or escaping. So it's always good to also, when you do strain out, to actually have it a little bit rigorously, so that they can actually get the CO2 out as well, because your CO2 might cause your still to boil over or puke when they, what they also call it sometimes, is that there's still too much gas trapped in your wash, and then when you start to heat it up, all that gas is suddenly released, and then your still would all of a sudden boil over. If typically if you're running a stripping run and it's a little bit more heat, you will get everything running through. It will not have time to cool down in the condenser, and then it will just come out of your distillate, and then you almost have to start the whole process over again. So I like it to see that it's doing this, and the little bit of foam that's there is the CO2 that's releasing, so I'm quite happy. All I'm going to strain out now for the glass carboy. Just also give you guys a bit of idea of what's the color and how it looks. Like I said, not too bad. This is what I expected. Still very curious to see how that tomato paste is going to look. So I'm just going to put that one there, and then here. So I did. I don't really got a lot of holders, so I was thinking that I'm going to strain out this one and then just clean out the bucket and then put it back in the bucket, and then I'll be straining that one, because I'm starting to think now, can actually I get another glass holder so that you can have comparison between the two. But I can maybe check on the beaker, but it's okay. We will just check via video, and maybe we'll take the two photos and just see how it looks. Alright, so I can still not see the yeast, so that's good. I mean, it's now just here by the bottom of the tap. So I'm also checking now my aquarium heater that I've got in. I was hoping to see if I can maybe see the bottom of it, but I can't still yet, because I don't want to lift it up too quickly, as it might be sitting in the yeast itself. So I'm just going to slowly lift it just to check if it might be a little bit in. It looks good. Alright. Oh, now I can't get it out. Don't worry. Okay, just going to hold it with my one hand because I don't want to get it back into the fermentation. So plan now is just to open the tap again fully, and then just tilt the bucket slowly until I can strain out as much as I can without getting any of the yeast on the inside, because we don't want that. Like I said, once I actually was too hasty with a rum fermentation, got a lot of yeast in my boiler and it burned, and it's not good. Also, when you do tilt your bucket, just do it very controlled and slowly, as you don't want to tilt it forward, take it back, tilt it forward, take it back, as you might end up doing a lot of swooshing around, and it can also mix your fermentation up again, and you might cause some of the yeast that was lying at the bottom to come up. I'm actually thinking now of getting my bucket, my holder, and actually straining out the last bit in this, as to almost make sure that I don't catch any of the yeast. And if I do catch yeast, it's only in this one and not in the main bucket as well. I'm just trying to think. I'm going to do this now. It's also just my way of keeping control. See, I can see fermentation wise still coming out very clear. Still, my straining out is very clear inside. I'm still seeing clear. Slowly starting to see, especially on the back where the highest point is lifted, I can see some of the dead yeast lying on the bottom. So I'm just going to pour this one in. It's still fine. It's the same as when I do my cuts at the end of a tails run. I tend to do my cuts into smaller cups so that I can start to taste it, as I might be collecting in my glass carboy and I don't want any of my last bit of cuts to spoil that whole distillate. So I will know, depending on my fermentation, depending on what I distill that day, I will then know, alright, at a certain point I'm getting to the end of my tails run or the end of my hearts run, so then I need to start to look at the tails, and then I will start to capture it in smaller quantities. And as soon as I start to get my off taste, then I know, alright, that's where I stop, and I don't have the risk of spoiling all of my distillate as well. And it's the same with fermentation. I'm just taking it slowly, pouring it into my measuring jug, so that if I might be a little bit too hasty and I slip any dead yeast in this one, I can throw away 200 or maybe 100 milliliters, better than trying this whole stainless steel bucket to try and scoop that out again. Okay, it's still coming. I must say it's a very thin layer of yeast that lies here at the bottom. Also shows you how good the turbo yeast is designed to really give you maximum yield of your sugar that you had. Alright, it's getting near the end, getting there. Bucket is now moving forward, so I'm just going to try and pitch it back a little bit. There we go. I see just that little bit of movement. I can now see a bit of sloshing and a bit of yeast that's picked up now. That's okay. Still got it fairly controlled. And yes, you have spent money and time, so you do want to make sure that you get all that last bit of fermentation out. But sometimes, yeah, you also just need to know when to call it a day. As I can see now, the more I'm lifting the bucket at the back, the more the yeast is shifting. So I'm actually gonna just call it a day. And as you can see, it was still very clear as the rest of the color of the fermentation, so I'm really happy with it still. No issues with any yeast that has come through my beaker as well, so I'm quite happy. Just going to put it here and see. Wow, shit. Yeah, very smart. Okay, now that's now a cleanup for me to do. I was trying to tilt it so that I can show you guys on the inside, but don't worry. Where's my, let me just do this for now. Okay, so on the inside you can definitely see there's some yeast that's built up, but it was a very thin layer, so it's really not bad. I'm actually very happy of how the turbo yeast performed. Alright, let me get that cleaned up and then get these back into the bucket, and then we'll go for the next one. Thank you guys. Hey everyone, okay, so I got my turbo yeast fermentation back into the bucket after I rinsed everything out, rinsed these also out, so everything is rinsed out nicely, got them back. I can actually see it's very close to the 20 liter mark. If I would have guessed, it might be 19.75 liters, but it's very close to the 20 liters, so I'm actually very happy. So like I said, I'm just still going to keep it like this for the rest of the week. Just going to put it a little bit back. So over to the tomato paste sugar wash with the Bakers yeast. So plan again, I'm going to strain out just a little bit into the beaker just to make sure there's no yeast lying right here, and then we'll get it straining out again. So it's my first time ever that I did a tomato paste Bakers Yeast fermentation, so it's going to be quite interesting to see how it looks and how it reacts. So you want to see, is it just the color? It's just color. I can't see any sediment at all, so I'm quite happy. It's just smells basically almost the same. Color's a little bit reddish, but not too much of a red. Just getting my stack ready again. Just slowly opening it. There we go. All right. At the same, we will just let it run again till here. Get the stainless steel bucket and put the rest in there. Then I'll try and show you guys again how the yeast looks without leaving the tap open and spilling my whole counter. That was quite fun. Not very smart at all, but yeah, little things. But that makes it interesting and that makes it fun, because I always try to be as clean as I can. You see, I've always got a cloth with me. Always try making it neat and clean. I don't like having too much of dirtiness all around, or even if I do spill, I try to clean everything up. So I think it's the nature of myself that I've learned to always, when I do distill, keep things neat. When I do fermentation, straining out, distillating, doesn't matter, I always try to keep it clean and neat. If there's a small spillage, quickly clean it up. Don't let it leave to be too long out or get sticky or anything. But yes, it's maybe just who I am, or how my nature is, or how distilling taught me to be neat. Can be a lot of factors. Alright, we can definitely see the tomato paste has colored the wash a little bit, but that was as expected, so I'm not too worried about that. I'm still happy of how it is. Fermentation also still looks very neat and clean. No other sediments that has come in. Still looking good inside as well. We'll just strain out the rest and then we'll tilt it again slowly to get the last bit of fermentation out, wash out, before we get to the yeast. I did saw now when I lifted the fermenter out, there was like 3 to 5 moles of yeast right at the bottom of that aquariometer, but it did settle back down quite quickly. So it definitely shows me that there might be a lot more build up of sediment here at the bottom for the tomato paste, but it's okay. So far everything still looks very clear. I'm still happy. I'm gonna open it fully now, start to tilt it, and then also get my beaker ready so that I can just strain out a little bit in the beaker, add until I can see, you know what, I'm starting to get very close, and then I will call it a day. I definitely see there's a lot more sediment, and it's definitely starting to slide down much quicker to the tap here on the bottom end at the lower point. So I'm just straining it very slowly, trying to get this last bit out. I can really see it has moved up 3/4 of the bucket. So I've got about 1/4 of space still left that I can see clear fermentation. So I'm just straining it very slowly, still keeping my beaker here, that if I suddenly see that the yeast does slip in, then I can just throw whatever in the beaker, throw that away. Like I said, it's not going to be hectic. You know, you're going to sit here with maybe 100 mils to 200 mils maximum you're going to throw away, but that's really not going to be the end of the world. The amount of alcohol that might be still in here is going to be so little, it's not really worth trying to squeeze out every last bit. Still coming nicely. It's very interesting. I did put a lot of yeast in here. I mean, it was 100 grams of Bakers yeast. Like I said, it might be a lot. Like I said, I've never done it before, so just thinking of using 100 grams of Turbo Yeast and 100 grams of Bakers yeast will be fine. Plus adding the tomato paste, and we added 210 grams of tomato paste as well. So I mean, I can understand that there might be a lot of sediments here. Alright, I think I am very close of calling it a day. I think that is it. Alright, closing the tap this time. Okay, so hope you guys can see actually inside. So as you can see, it's sliding off much faster than what the Turbo Yeast. The Turbo Yeast was actually like sitting there. When I actually sprayed it off with the hose, that's only when it really moved. The rest of the time it was just sticking there right at the bottom. The tomato paste and Bakers yeast, you can see it's sliding off much easier. So yes, just gonna clean out this as well now, as well as this bucket. You can also see there's like a red ring around the fermentation bucket as well for the tomato paste. So really quite happy, really looking good. So rinsing this out, getting back the stainless steel bucket as well as the glass carboy back in here, just to more or less guess where the level might be, and then that will be basically it for the day. We might just measure the sugar content again, just for interest's sake, but I think it went very well. I think you guys might have a good idea of how to do a sugar wash, and also this is a very great experiment to see how Bakers yeast with turbo tomato paste compares with Turbo Yeast that's already got everything built into the yeast as well. So let me quickly rinse this out, and then we'll have a quick recap right here. Alright, so Turbo Yeast back in as we got previously. So on the tomato paste, there is my 20 liter mark, and it's roughly about there, and this is the 15, so maybe it's about 19 liters that's still left. I'm still happy with that. It's still a large fermentation that I can then strain out and see, distill out and see what's the result's going to be. So in a nutshell, the plan is going to be to split both of them in two, to have two batches to run through the still. As my still is only 13 liters, I'm going to do 10 liters at a time, 10 liters, well 9.5 at a time, just to get everything stripping run, and then after that then we'll see, compare and taste and see how it goes. But for now, like I said, I just want to quickly measure the sugar content one more time just to get an idea, as it's now been strained out. So you want to see if it really gives a difference. That's still at 1.5 bricks, so it's fairly going to stay there. So I'm happy. You know, I'm really happy to see how it has distilled out and how it has ended up. So here we still got that 7.5 bricks. So I'm still very happy. Sorry guys, to recap, we had control of 6.25 kgs of sugar for the sugar wash, with adding everything inside and then filling up to 20 liters of water. The only difference between the two was we had one with Turbo Yeast that I bought that has already got all the nutrients, pH buffers and everything inside, and on the Bakers Yeast side we also added tomato paste for nutrients. So it was a Turbo Yeast versus a Bakers Yeast comparison to see how they perform. I will definitely do the potential alcohol calculations before we do distillation, just to get you guys an idea of how that's stacked up. So I hope this helps, especially if you want to do a sugar wash, to see how a sugar wash is done, also how it performs during the fermentation period. I'll see a lot of videos of just how to do a sugar wash, but they never put the process through of how it actually ferments, or how does the bubble react, how do you do when you need to strain it out. So I like to do this type of videos, complete videos, because in any case I'm busy with it, so I might as well just record it and show you guys. And as you might also know, that I'm a quite talker, but it's because I'm passionate about it. I like to share it. I like to get involved and explain to you guys what I'm doing and why I'm doing it this specific way as well. So hopefully someone out there would understand the passion. And if I'm talking too much, I do apologize, but I'm not going to stop talking, because like I said, it's still my passion. I still got that dream of opening up a craft distillery, and maybe one day I will get to that point. Even if I just get to work at a distillery, that will also be great. Really would like that. All right guys, thank you for watching. If you've got any questions, pop it in the comments. I'm always on my comments. I might be a day or two, but I always try to answer all the questions or any comments that does come in. I do try to respond as quickly as I can. If you do like it, hit the like button, give me a subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet, please. It really helps build the channel as well. And as always guys, remember to be awesome, to be kind, and be yourself. Cheers.